Let this blessed assurance control that Christ hath regarded my helpless estate and hath shed his own blood for my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. With my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. My sin, oh the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin not in part, but the whole is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. With my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when the face shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. With my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. Is there anybody who doesn't know the story behind that song? Is there anybody who doesn't know? If you don't know, raise your hand, I'll tell it to you. If you know, I'm going to move on. There was a fellow named Horatio, I think, Spafford. Thank you, Horatio Spafford, who lived in Chicago. He was apparently wealthy. I mean, he had multiple homes, I think. Well, I don't know. He had, was it 3 daughters? I don't remember how many kids he had. He had several. He had some business to attend to, and they were all supposed to travel together. And for some reason or another, he got held up. He sent his wife and children ahead of him on a steamer toward across the pond to England somewhere. And he gets a message back from his wife. It's very simple and to the point. All souls lost. She was on one with it. She's on one with it. Saved alone. That's right. Thank you. I don't have it in front of me. This is all from memory, so forgive me if I make some errors. In that same period of time, they had a couple of miscarriages. They had lost some other children. They had a house burned down, some property. I think that's why they separated. He had some property that caught on fire, and he had to stay back and deal with some of that business and sent them ahead. And one of the reasons they were driving together. And they were just plagued by tragedy. And the way I understand the story, sometime later, when he was sailing over there, I guess to be with his wife.
She was in England.
He was headed to her, and when they got to the spot in the ocean, roughly where that thing had gone down, he just was overcome, and he sat down and wrote the song. Just understanding that, and if you listen to the words, it makes more sense.
Right.
You talk about when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, I mean, whatever I'm going through, you taught me to say it's well with my soul. It don't matter what we're going through. We need to make sure it's well with our soul. And so thank you for picking that. If I'd known you were going to pick it, I would have had that biography in front of me. But I don't. So anyhow,
But I told you last week.
you could have, and I wouldn't have remembered it. It would have made a bit of difference.
Oh my. So, very good, very good.
I'm trying to remember. How did we have services here before Rick came? Somebody.
Hazardous pay.
What's that?
They're gonna start giving you hazardous pay.
That's not the worst idea I ever heard.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, a couple things we need to discuss. First of all, I was going to wait until June sometime and discuss this, but I've been approached by several people that are asking, are we going to return to indoor services? I'm fine with it. I never wanted to go outside to begin with. We did that to try to get some people back that we had lost. So I'm not saying it has to be decided today, but I had some people tell me that Rosenke, McMahon, and some other churches, starting this Sunday, they're going back to having indoor services. Now, we don't have to follow suit. We didn't follow suit when all this stuff started. We haven't really been followers here. But I have had a couple people ask me that haven't been coming. I guess they don't want to sit in their cars. We've had some people still not come back, or they're waiting until we're back inside. And you know,
they're missing something because it's really been.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
It's been really.
like I said, I'm not in any hurry to change anything, but it's supposed to rain Sunday. So, I mean, that thing will broadcast fine in the rain. I'm standing on the porch. I don't care. I'm just.
Yeah, but poor Tristan, when was it? One Sunday, he was up to his ankles in water, standing out there with an umbrella.
He's the one who should get hazard pay.
No, there's
Yeah.
some churches that have opened and
Yeah.
then had someone get ill and pass.
Is it just based on
Maybe
different
it's the
churches?
distancing that,
I had somebody ask me, I'm not going to name them, somebody who's been going and visiting somewhere else, I guess, or hadn't been going at all, who's missing us, wants to come back, but doesn't necessarily, she didn't have a radio on her car. She told me, so I don't know. I offered to fix it, and she wasn't interested in that idea, so.
You know, it won't hurt, I don't think.
I don't know why she can't come in here and sit down.
Sunday, just go ahead and have it inside and.
Especially.
I can broadcast anyway. I can broadcast anyway. You won't see my face, but I mean, I don't know that anybody wants to see my face anyway. I can broadcast too.
You can still
I would
broadcast.
go ahead and mention it on social media prior to, so people can prepare, whatever that means to them.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'll make sure we pass that along and send it out in our church text, and I can put it on Facebook, YouTube, whatever I need to do. But I want to make a decision, and while I'm sure that you guys would follow me if I just made one, I like including you guys. You guys are the most faithful group at this church. You're the ones that are here through thick and through thin, and so your opinion matters to me. I'm asking, are y'all ready to, I mean, it doesn't affect the interview either way. I know you'll be here. So I'm just asking you, based on what you guys think of what's going on, are we ready to move back inside? And I'll broadcast anyway for a while. We have the equipment. I'll broadcast anyway, whether I'm out there or not. Or do y'all want to wait a week or two and see what happens?
I think we're ready.
You think we're ready? Have services back in here?
And my mom, she said, I'm not sitting in my car. If I go over there, I'm going in.
Hey,
Your answer.
that settles that.
Anyway.
That settles that in my mind.
No, right there.
I should have just called.
Second that.
I should just call Lane Audie. I don't know why I'm bothering y'all with this.
I think it's funny.
That's settled.
If I go there, I'm not
But you
sitting
can
in my
tell
car.
everybody that you're still gonna broadcast.
Yeah, and then
Right.
If they don't want to come inside.
Right. If there are people who are still not ready to come inside, I want them to know that, you know, if I have to get me a perch, stand in front of that window.
Here, I got one.
Perch, not purse.
Well, I thought he said.
I said, let me rephrase. If I gotta stand on a chair to get my face in that chair.
Oh, goodness.
Nice. Okay.
It's
All right. Y'all are having too much fun. I'm going to preach on sin. Turn to Luke 16.
Enjoy.
Preach on hell. And I'm kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah.
Boy.
Well, I'm leaving.
Is that all it took? I'm just playing. I deserve that. I deserve that. 685. Y'all can't go anywhere. Y'all gotta pick
It's
the music.
85?
Huh?
We're singing more?
Yes, please.
You said, look,
She was already in love.
I was kidding. I was joking. No.
make up my
You
mind.
said prefer Luke.
No, I said y'all are having too much fun. I'm gonna preach on hell a while, and let's turn to Luke 16.
She had already got the loop.
And then she said something about she was leaving, and I thought,
Okay.
I don't know. That was weird. I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe that's it.
All right.
No, I'm not through singing, y'all.
That's a very good medicine.
Let's keep Aunt Audie in our prayers. I know that she was in a lot of pain.
And
And Joe,
I called
Lynn was here today, and I didn't get to talk to her. I saw her car here, and I was going to come talk to her.
I called her, but I just got her message and she didn't call back.
I went up there briefly because I needed to talk to her about something, but, you know, Mom was still in the car, and she went up there trying to talk to Mom. Mom's mouth was full of balls. So, Mom like, you know, I can't. Yeah, poor Lynn. I just, they left his medicine, his driver's license, and his, yeah, she had to go all the way back over there this morning to pick that up. I said, I'll go get it. She goes, no, I already went and got it. But bless her heart. Some people you just want to walk. She said, Joe asked him 3 times, don't forget my bag of medicine.
But let's do pray. I want to pray for those two for sure. Anybody else before we pray? I know there's a lot of people, but I just mean specifically.
I'd like to lift up Samaritans first.
Okay.
They have been pretty much told, get out of New York because you're bigots and you're liars and you're all that. And they opened the hospital in New York City to treat. Well, you guys are against LBGT thing. And the city council voted, get them out of here. Franklin Graham was very calm about it. We got a note today in his letter. He said, you just can't please everybody. We're doing what Jesus would want us to do.
Amen.
We're going to the heart of these things. We're giving, and if the world doesn't like it, tell them. They didn't treat him.
This happens more than you think.
Yeah.
I don't report it a lot because it's depressing. But you know, just a couple of years ago, Mike Huckabee took a position in the CMAs. Mike Huckabee's a Christian.
Right.
He's a Baptist. He was governor of Arkansas. He's run for president in a time or two. I wish he'd have got it. He'd have gotten my vote. I like Mike. But anyhow, I don't know why, but they asked him to be on some position for the CMAs, which is the Country Music Awards. And when they found out that his stance was against, which they should have known, when they found out his stance against homosexuality and abortion, they asked him to step down the same month that they gave it to him. It was stupid.
So
Chicago right now is, if y'all haven't heard, Chicago, we need to pray for the churches there because they're being fined for meeting at all. I mean, they're just, the city told them that. And so they're paying, I heard that on Fox News, I didn't read the whole report. What I did get out of it was they're being fined and they're being persecuted. They need our prayer. They're not the only ones. Samaritan's Purse is not the only one. Drew Brees last year was given grief because he stood up for focus on the family. The devil is in the last death throes because he knows his time is short and it's fixing to get bad toward churches. I think this was just a preamble to what they're fixing to try to do to us.
we need to be strong. That's all
We
we're
just
doing.
need to stand. That's all we can do. Just stand for our Lord, pray. And prayer is more important now than it's ever been before. I don't think people understand the power of it. So with that in mind, thank you for that. Anyone else before?
Minnesota, the dams are breaking in Minnesota.
I didn't hear that.
And two or three have breached or something. Flooding.
Another state too,
Michigan's.
Michigan is flooded.
Michigan.
Michigan, maybe.
Yeah, it was Michigan, they're afraid the dam's gonna break and they're telling
Some of them
them.
already have. And it's flood, severe flooding.
It's things like this is gonna happen.
It's,
I mean, there's gonna be
There will be no excuse when he comes back. He's going to say, I've done everything I can to get your attention, to get you to rely on me and me alone. All right, we'll lift them up
And
too.
Cindy Johnson, that she's waiting on the results for her procedure too.
Yeah.
Waiting is hard.
It's on Friday.
Well, you look good to me. I give you you get a pass. No, seriously, I do hope you get a good one. All right, let's go to the Lord in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, first of all, I just ask you to forgive me of my sins. Forgive me for the ways that I fail you every day. And Lord, I like to cut up, but sometimes I don't know when to stop cutting up. So forgive me for anything I might say that's offended folks. Lord, I do ask you to meet with us tonight. I can't ask you enough, Lord, just to be in this room with us. And you've promised, Lord, where two or more gathered in your name, that you would be in the midst. We're here gathered in your name. Lord, each person here is gathered here because they want to meet with you, Lord. They want to feel your presence in their life. And Lord, I know that you'll be here tonight, and I just thank you in advance for what you're going to do through us in this place. Lord, we love being in your house. Father, I do lift up our country, from Minnesota to Michigan to Chicago, Lord, California. I can't name every state, but Lord, you know where people are hurting, where they're suffering, and where some may be suffering justly, some are not. Lord, I know it rains on the just and the unjust, and so I lift up to you everyone, asking you mercy, but also asking you to help us wake people up. Father, you gave us the power to pray down the strongholds and to pray up your forces on earth. So Father, I just pray that you would stand, just give us the strength to stand as your people, to honor you and to glorify you and to pray on the behalf of your will. And Father, I pray you'd help us as a church to pull down the strongholds of the enemy, to prevent Satan from hurting so many and from leading them blindly away from the truth. Father, I do lift up Aunt Audie. I love her dearly. You know this. I pray you just help her to get over this pain and all this that she's dealing with that's gone on so long. Father, I pray maybe now to be over and you can help her to not hurt anymore. Lord, I pray for Brother Joe and Lynn and all that they're going through. Lord, there's others. I lift up our prayer list. I know that the Reeds have suffered through quite a bit, both of them, and I pray for them and their family. Lord, I pray for everyone in this room and their family. I don't want to single anybody out. Father, I ask you power upon us all. I ask you mercy upon us all, and I ask you to be with us tonight as we study your word together. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Page 685.
Sweetly, Lord, have we heard thee calling, come, follow me. And we see where thy footprints falling, lead us to thee. Footprints of Jesus that make the pathway glow. We will follow the steps of Jesus wherever they go. Though they lead o'er the cold dark mountains, seeking his sheep, or along by so lost fountains, helping the weak. Footprints of Jesus that makes the pathway glow. We will follow the steps of Jesus wherever they go. If they lead to the temple, holy, preaching the word, or in homes of the poor and lowly, serving the Lord. Footprints of Jesus that makes the pathway glow. We will follow the steps of Jesus wherever they go. Then at last when on high he sees us, our journey done,
Well, I hope people really mean it whenever he does those words. I do. I think y'all do. I picked 598, and when I picked it, I thought, you know, I feel like we sing this a lot, but I can't help it. I love this song. So, y'all forgive me if we sing this too much. I don't know if we do or not. I just feel that way.
Take up thy cross and follow me. I heard my master say, I gave my life to ransom me. Surrender all today. Wherever he leads, I'll go.
I know what I want to sing. I don't know if it's in this book.
What's the name of it?
Hang on. 776. Can't promise you guys that I'm going to play this the way you'll know it. So. Just follow me, okay?
7 what?
776.
776.
That okay with you? We have permission to push it.
I just couldn't hear what you're saying. I need to know so I can end it.
Doesn't have his hearing aids.
They're not working today.
Huh?
good. Work it.
I'm kind of homesick for a country to which I've never been before. No sad goodbyes will there be spoken, for time won't matter anymore. Beulah land, I'm longing for you, and someday only I'll stand there. My home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah land. I'm looking down across the river to where my faith shall lead inside. There's just a few more days to labor, and I will take my heavenly flight. Beulah land, I'm longing for you, and someday only I'll stand there. My home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah land. I see the light, I hear the singing, a brand new song of joy divine. My soul rejoices just in knowing that soon these pleasures will be mine. Beulah land, I'm longing for you, and someday only I'll stand there. My home shall be eternal. Beulah land, sweet Beulah land.
Those are keepers.
Amen. Justin, will you give me a little water?
Yeah.
I didn't know that third verse till I moved here. We never did have that. I only knew the first two. I got a letter. I want to tell you who from, but I don't know if I'm supposed to. But it blessed my heart, and I debated whether to keep it to myself or share it. But I think I've just decided to share it with you guys, rather than read this Sunday. I'm not going to tell you who it is. If you know, if you can guess, that's all right. But you can't just know this. It was a visitor here Sunday. That'll narrow it down. Dear Pastor Chad, I want to thank you for the thoughtful gift as a guest today. The mug is very pretty. I wish I could take credit for that, but I didn't. The mug is very pretty. It's special to me, as it reminds me of the little Delhi community where I grew up with my grandparents. The flashlight will be very useful too. I think Ginger came up with that. I don't know. I didn't. The Flashlight will be very useful too. I wasn't aware of the church's full history either. Apparently we put that in there. We put a little pamphlet with history of the church. I've truly enjoyed and been blessed by your sermons. You make the messages so plain while inserting amusing comments. Imagine that. The church, for its size, has an amazingly wonderful outreach. That was the part that I wanted to share. I appreciated that. She says, I'm fortunate, I'm not going to name this person either, but I'm fortunate that they asked me to go with them. Somewhat unfortunately, I've been a faithful member of First Christian Church in Lockhart for 22 years, and I don't want to leave there, though your sermons are better. Hey, that's sweet, I thought. Anyway, may God continue to bless you, your family, and this church. I didn't want to keep that to myself. I thought y'all had a right to know somebody else was blessed by being here with us. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful. All right, turning your Bibles to Genesis. That's all right anytime. I'll take it. Genesis chapter 27 is where we're at. Genesis chapter 27. If y'all really want to hear that message, I certainly can do it.
That's okay. 27 Genesis.
Just before.
Yeah. Real one. I'm gonna make a U-turn.
Alright.
I didn't mean to mess y'all up so bad when I said that. I was trying to be funny. Everybody else was making jokes.
We were messed up when we came. It's okay.
Well, as long as you know that and I didn't have to tell it to you, it's all right. Well, I'm never going to get into this. I can't. All right. Let's, we didn't get to finish the chapter. We could have, but we didn't. Let's start at verse 30. Chapter 27, verse 30. Y'all remember what's going on in this text? So we've had, I looked at something this week I hadn't thought of before, and I'm glad I looked at it because you know how it is. We all read the same Bible. We read it for long periods of time over our life, you know, some of us longer than others. And I don't mean that to crack on people's age. I mean, some people come to know the Lord later in life. But as we come to know Him and come to study His Word together, sometimes we'll read something we've read a million times. Well, not quite a million, but we've read a lot. And then something will come up and you're like, wow, that was always there. Yeah. I've looked at this plenty, but you remember that, and I don't remember right where, there's a passage in Malachi that says, Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated. Right. Remember that passage? It used to bother me a little because of the wording of it. But it occurred to me this week, and see, this has always been there, I just hadn't thought of it. Y'all know when Malachi was written? I actually came across this studying for Sunday's message in Obadiah. Obadiah's whole message was against Edom. Y'all knew that, right? Y'all caught that? Y'all were here Sunday, right? Yeah. Edom is Esau, okay? Edom is descendant of Esau. Right. Well, when God said that in Malachi, that was after hundreds of years of persecution by Edom. So that word Esau could have easily been put there, Edom have I hated, Israel have I loved. And it could be, a lot of people have taken that to mean that, and this is where some of your, look, it's not that I don't believe in predestination, I do, I just think it's based on God's foreknowledge, okay? The Bible says, whom He did foreknow, Him did He also predestinate, so see, they go together. When He knows how it's going to turn out, He can predestinate anything He wants to, because He can plan accordingly. But there are those who carry that to an extreme that I don't. I'm not a Calvinist. I'm not a hyper-Calvinist. I don't believe that we don't have any choices and it's all set in stone. I don't believe that. There are people who do. But one of their biggest texts that they use to support their ideas is the verse in Malachi, which again, I don't remember right where, but it's a short book. You can find it. Where it says that Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Well, this has been there all that time. I don't think that was directed at Esau the son. I think that was directed at the whole clan. So it just clears it up a little for me. He's hated Edom because he knew how they'd do it, and then he has evidence of it. That's why he didn't tell us that in Genesis. Nowhere in Genesis does it say he hated Esau. That passage comes from way later. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say? Before I dive in here, I want you to understand God wasn't biased toward Esau as a man. But God was judging Edom later for what they had done. He knew they'd do it, but after they had done it, he formed, he makes this statement through Malachi how he felt about it. But it was because of how they had turned their back on him and the way they'd acted. Now Esau is a small glimpse of that. Remember, as of yet, Esau's life has been very self-serving and selfish. He's a perverse man who does what he wants to do. He's what the world today would idolize. He'd be what out in Hollywood, what they call a Hollywood stud muffin or star or whatever. One of those that he's got money, he's I wouldn't say famous, but I mean, being a grandson of Abraham and the son of Isaac, he's not hurting for anything. So he grew up with wealth and privilege. He grew up with a good name. They had animals. They had plenty of wealth. If they liquidated all their assets, they had plenty of things going for them. And instead of honoring the God that gave it all to him, Esau's just a perverse man. And I've shown you that that passage in Hebrews where the Apostle Paul tells us. But I've also shown you in Genesis where Esau has continually done things that are self-serving. He doesn't have any respect toward his birthright. He doesn't apparently have any respect toward God. And he doesn't even think about wanting to be blessed or being a leader for his people or his family until we get to this chapter. This is the first time he ever considers it. And when he considers it for all the wrong reasons. Have you seen somebody that truly acts like they want to correct their bad behavior, but not because they want to correct it, just because they've tried everything else first and they're like, well, this is the only direction we'll have to go? You ever met anybody that hard-headed? I mean, they've just gone down every single path they could but the right one, and then they'll act like they want to try to straighten it up, but their heart's just not in it. You ever met anybody like that? Because I have. I've met some folks who, they just don't mean it, okay? They want to continue doing like they were doing, but they're tired of hitting a roadblock. And they'll come to me and they'll say, Brother Chad, I want to get my life right, I want to get things straight, I just don't know how to do it, and I'll try to tell them how to do it, and a few weeks later they're right back where they were. Their heart just wasn't in it. Esau was such a fellow. He was just too wild and carefree. He liked to hunt, and there's nothing wrong with hunting, but he liked to pursue his own desires and these fleshly things. So in this story, and he did things out of spite. You can't tell me he didn't marry those two Hittite women just to spite his parents. I just don't believe that. I honestly think he did, just to upset them, because he's probably mad at them about something at the time. He acted and reacted sometimes without putting any real thought. He didn't seem to think about his future at all. It was kind of like the scenario we read where he sells his birthright for food. He wasn't thinking at all about the future. It was how I feel in this moment. And that's the type of person that he was. So, I've said enough about Esau. I just want you to understand the character the two men were talking about. You may not be a big fan of Jacob. I've had people say, well, Jacob was tied to his mama's apron strings. I actually read a theologian that a doctor, someone who I won't tell you. I know who it is, but I'm not going to tell you because it don't matter. But I'm not going to dignify him with his name. But he wrote that Jacob was just tied to his mama's apron strings, and that's why she liked him better than Esau. No, I think the reason she liked him is because she loved God. And she knew that God was going to do great things through Jacob, and that he had been dependable. You can make fun of him for not being a hunter. You can make fun of him for not being the hairy, manly, outdoorsy wilderness type. But you know what he was? He was faithful. He stayed home. He took care of things his brother wouldn't take care of. He helped his mom and dad. He was dependable. You know, in some families, it's different for everybody. Some people are only children, but in some families, there'll be one, maybe two children who are really dependable, who stick around and take care of things, and everybody else runs off and pursues their own dreams. And some people sacrifice everything, and I mean everything, to take care of others and put themselves last, while still others put themselves first and think only of themselves, leaving everyone else behind. And it's interesting because we have a pretty good contrast, a pretty good look at that here. We've got Jacob, who you can call him a mama's boy if you want to, but he was a daddy's boy too. whether his daddy recognized that or not. I honestly think Isaac was living vicariously through Esau. Because Isaac grew up in a strict household, and Isaac, as far as we know, hadn't done anything or been anywhere. So here he's got this son who's wild and carefree, and he encourages that behavior because in a way he admires it. It's something he never get to do. Y'all see where I'm going with that? You understand what I'm saying? Am I making sense? I feel like I'm all over the world, but I'm trying to make a point. We come to verse 30, and what's happened here is Isaac, because he does show favoritism toward Esau, and Esau is technically the firstborn, even though they're twins, he tells him to go out and get him some meat and come back. And y'all remember the story. Jacob comes in and pretends to be Esau, and so Jacob gets the blessing. In verse 30, watch this. It says, it came to pass as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, who are you? Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. What do you mean, who am I? You know who I am. What's wrong with you, Dad? Verse 33, and Isaac trembled very exceedingly and said, who? Now don't separate those. Those happen together. He trembled very exceedingly and said, who? And he trembled for a number of reasons. We talked about anger. I think it was Sister Cindy last week who reminded me that a note in her Bible that talks about how mad he was. There's more than anger going on here. Sure, he's mad at Jacob. Anybody be mad at being deceived. But I think what made him tremble, what really scared him, was he saw the work of God despite his efforts. He saw God do just exactly what God had said he would do, even though he wasn't doing things he was supposed to be doing. You know, that'll wake you up. When you see the hand of God on your life, even though you're not doing like you're supposed to be doing. I look at a lot of different events in my own life. Think about how there's been times when I was walking with God so close, I felt like I could reach out and take his hand. I can honestly tell you, it's been just a few times. It's not often, you know. There's been a few times I felt that close. We were in sync. And oh, how I loved being on that mountaintop. I used to get mad at God. I'd say, Lord, why do you ever let me go down in the valley? Up here's where it's at. Let's just stay on this mountaintop forever, man. It's me and you in the world. That we can just, you know, I don't mean the world. I mean just, everything's just great when you're standing there with God and walking with Him as close as you've ever been to Him. But unfortunately, sometimes He sends us down in that valley or allows us to fall into it or whatever to build our character and to teach us lessons. So I've seen times in my own life where I wasn't as close to God as I wanted to be. And I saw His will done in my life in spite of some things that I did wrong. And so I can identify with how he must feel here. Because Isaac is not a bad man, okay? Don't get the wrong idea. Isaac's not a bad man. He's been a relatively good one. You know, he's been married to one wife. He's raised a couple of boys, and he's done what he can to follow God and to honor his dad and his granddad. I mean, but anyway, the point is, Isaac wasn't a bad man. But just like all of us, he makes mistakes. And it's very, very humbling when in our lives where we've failed God, we see Him working in Him and doing things according to His will that we're going to benefit from. You realize everything that God's doing here, they benefit from. When God works in our lives, even if it's not what we wanted to happen, it benefits us. I feel like I'm not making myself clear. Let me put it another way. In my own mind, when I got my CDL, I thought I was going to make a bunch of money and work all over the place and support my family and buy them nice things and do what everybody told me I'm supposed to do. I'm a man. I have kids. I have responsibilities. I thought my job was to make a bunch of money, give them what they want, let them all be driving nice new cars and live in a big nice house. I mean, that's just what I thought I was supposed to be doing. Well, God worked and moved in my life, and look at me, I'm standing in Delhi, Texas. But just because it didn't go like I thought it ought to go, can't you see that everything He's done, in spite of what I had in mind, has worked to my benefit and my blessing and the benefit and blessing of those around me? what God has done here in Isaac's life may not be what Isaac wanted. It may not have worked out so great as Esau wanted, but it is there to benefit them and glorify God. You see what I'm saying? So Isaac benefits from how God blesses Jacob. And Esau could have benefited from how God's going to bless Jacob. He's his brother. If he would just surrender to God and follow him, Esau's going to fit into this blessing too. Maybe not in the line of Christ, but in other ways. God blessed Ishmael. And God does bless Esau. I mean, a whole nation rises out of that man. A man who, as far as we can tell, hadn't done anything to deserve it. He just happened to be born into the right family. You ever meet anybody like that? Get all kinds of blessings they don't necessarily deserve. Get all kinds of chances. I've seen people with potential pouring out of their ears who seem like they get chance after chance after chance after chance. And I look at that situation and think, if that had been me, I'd have had one on. You know what I mean? You see some people, it just seems like they get so many opportunities. But God is going to be honored and glorified, and people sometimes have to be humble, but it's all for their benefit. Isaac here is trembling because he just realized that even though he is gone in the very face of Almighty God, God's will was done. It was done just exactly like he said it would be. So he trembles very exceedingly and says, "Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten all before thou camest, and have blessed him, yea, and he shall be blessed." This was prophetic. That's another reason he's trembling. He just realized that God has done exactly what he said he'd do, and Jacob will be blessed. It says verse 34, "And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father." Now I showed you this last week, and I don't know if you'll remember, so we'll look at it again. It'll take me a second. Turn to Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12. See, Paul references all of this. I'm aiming at verse 17, but there's a passage here that we need to see. There's a passage here, honestly, I need to preach on sometime. Not necessarily for this group, but there comes a time when you've got to mention certain things. I want to share it with you guys because you're here. Same chapter, but back up a few verses. I just want to mention it. We're not going to stay on it long. It says in verse 5, "And you have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children, my son. Despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him." That word, faint when thou art rebuked to him, is similar to that word. I mean, this is in Greek and that was in Hebrew, but it's very... actually, no, this was written in Hebrew too, excuse me. But the word's very similar. Don't faint when thou art rebuked of him. It's very similar to the word that we saw in Genesis where Isaac's trembling. You know, don't tremble, don't faint, don't get too upset when you see the chastening of the Lord. He's making a point, verse 6, "For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If you endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our own flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live?" Now he's talking about being corrected by our dads on earth. How much more should we be corrected by our Father in heaven, who is perfect and makes no mistakes? He says, verse 10, "For they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness." This is what I was trying to tell you earlier. That when God does things in us and through us and has to humble us sometimes and send us back down the mountaintop. And again, I'd rather live on the mountaintop, wouldn't we all? I'd rather just stay up on that mountain. But we spend most of our time in the valley, don't we? Sometimes because of our own bad choices, and sometimes because he's trying to teach us something. But he says, don't faint, don't tremble, don't be weak-hearted when you go through these things, because he's teaching us something. He says in verse 10, he says, "For our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. No chastening for the present seems to be joyous." Well, you can say that again. In fact, I will. No chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. I told you guys a few weeks ago on Mother's Day about a particular chastisement I got from my mother when I slept through church. Y'all remember that story?
Yeah.
That's a true story. No chastisement's fun. He says here, he says, no chastening seems to be joyous, it's grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yields peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. Wherefore lift up the hands which hang down, the feeble knees, and make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men and holiness without, which no man shall see. I read that wrong. With that right, thank you. I didn't know what I'd done wrong. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord, looking diligently lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. People give me grief sometimes because I go on all these little rabbit trails and stories and add all these things and ad lib to the sermon. But see, Paul does that too. Watch this. He just got through telling you some important stuff about chastening and trusting and following the Lord and not being weak-kneed about it. Verse 16 he says, lest there be any fornicator or profane person, and he decides to use an example. Well, you got to just love being Esau and knowing that for all eternity you just got a name dropped on you. Somebody just hold off on you. Look what he says. He says, fornicator or profane person like Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. That sums up the character of Esau. He says, for you know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. Now, I wish I could go on, but we'll study Hebrews another time. I just want you to see that verse 17, and I took a long trip to get there, but I wanted you to see it in the context with which it was written. Paul's making an example of what he's been talking about chastisement and correction and holiness and following the Lord, how God's going to use these things to bring you to holiness. Let me say it one more way and I'm through with that section. Did you get to be as holy as you are today without God running you through the ringer a few times? And you say, wait a minute, Brother Chad, I'm not that holy. No, you're not. But you used to be worse. I know, because I was. Did I get to where I'm at today without God running me through the ringer a few times? No. So are these things necessary sometimes to get us straightened out? Absolutely they are. And hey, we're not there yet. We're still here. There's still some trials and tribulations to go through. So why do we get so upset? I've got one kid and one kid only who's figured out when it's time to get their butt busted, they just bend over and get it out of the way. I've got one kid, when it's time to spank butts, they just, all right, let's get this over with. And Nate, that, he runs. He's the biggest one, and he runs the furthest, the fastest. No, it's not him. I've got one kid who just gets it over with. And she don't like it either. But she knows, you know what, this is for my correction. Let's get on with it. That's how we all start looking at correction. Instead of getting all upset about it, take it for what it's intended for. Anyway, enough about that. I said I'd quit.
Yeah, I know one kid that would rather get licks at school than for me to know it.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Look.
I can relate. I'd rather get licks at school than my dad ever know I got in trouble. Man.
You didn't want to get them over here.
Any questions about that before we move on? Verse 17 was the focus. He says, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance. He wasn't rejected because God hated him. And it took me a long time to figure that out. He was rejected because he wasn't looking for repentance. In fact, he wasn't even interested in the blessing until it wasn't his anymore. I'll tell a story. And I'm sorry, this is who I am. Y'all know this by now. This is just how it is. I had a stepfather who tried to be good to me, and I made it incredibly difficult. And there's a lot of reasons. I mean, my parents weren't great. My mom was an alcoholic, and I wear this to remember her by, but anyway, this was hers. But I didn't make things easy on my stepdad, and he was trying to be good to me. And he was trying to teach me some things that I really wished I'd learned, you know, about camping and stuff. He'd been in the Army, in the infantry. He gave me a big, nice Army knife he got made by K-Bar. I didn't know who K-Bar was at the time. But anyway, he tried to be nice to me, tried to teach me some stuff, and I didn't make it easy on him. I regret that. He's dead now. Grateful. But one day he came in my room, and after all of the lectures I got about touching anything of his, he decides one day to be nice and give me something. I wasn't home. I was at school or something. He came in my room and he set this lantern that I'd been admiring for some time. I thought they were neat. Y'all know those old Coleman lanterns. You put kerosene in them. You like those little white bags? Weren't those neat? I don't know who dreamed that up. Why didn't that bag ever burn up? Weren't those neat?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just always fascinated by those things. He's never seen one. But I was fascinated by them. And every time we ever would go camping, I thought that was the neatest thing, watching how he lit that thing and used it. Well, I had made mention before how I wished I had one of them things, and I was getting up about his age. One day he decides to give me his. But he don't say nothing. He just steps in my room, sets it on my shelf there, and leaves it. Well, I come home and I see it, and I think, why is this stuff in here? I figured one of my sisters did it. So I went and put it back where it goes. A couple of days later, it was in there again. He still hadn't said anything to me. And this is where I made my mistake. Rather than go ask him, of course he didn't talk to me either. But he was just trying to give me something that he knew I would enjoy having. Well, I carried it and put it back again. Well, he misunderstood. He thought that I just didn't want it, and he gave it to one of my buddies about my age in school who loved going camping. This was one of those friends I admired, that I wanted to be like. So when he gave it to him, you talk about mad. I was hot. I thought, well, why'd you give it to him? I wanted that. And he said, I tried to give it to you twice. You obviously didn't want it. And I'd never wanted the thing until it was given to somebody else.
Miscommunication.
Well, yes. But it's also, if I had really wanted it, I mean, I was a kid. I can't remember how I felt at the time. But if I really wanted it, don't you think I'd have kept it in my room? Or just left it sitting there and see what happens next? Wait till we go camping again, see if he said anything. He probably would have when the time was right. He was a real quiet guy, a real weird guy. He probably would have found the time to discuss it with me. But he was just trying to give me something, and I rejected it, so he gave it to somebody else. I think of that every time I read this. That don't mean anything to y'all, but it meant a lot to me because I was so upset over that. I didn't let it go for a long time after that. It bothered me. And so I can picture on a different scale, obviously, but I can picture how Esau must have felt here. Now he wants a blessing. He didn't care anything about a blessing or a birthright. Now he wants the thing. And all he had to do was repent. It says, when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry and said to his father, bless me even also, O my father. He said, thy brother came with subtlety, and I've taken away thy blessing. And he said, now this is where we left off last week, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get here. But what I'm trying to say, and I hope I've made clear, some of the things we go through, they're for our correction, but we've got to get the message. Esau needed to understand this was all about repentance and trusting the Lord. And he's got this, he's thrown this big bawling fit in verse 34. All he had to do was repent, turn it around, and make some changes. That's all he had to do. He says, thy brother came with subtlety, and I've taken away thy blessing. One more thought from last week. I told you, Isaac could have tried to change this. He could have said, you know what? It's null and void. He wasn't the right son. He wasn't the one I meant it toward, so let's do it all again. It don't count if you tricked me. He could have said that. You know why he didn't? Because he knew the thing was of God. And he wasn't going to go against God. He'd already done that, and it didn't work out for him. He wasn't going to do it again. Isaac at least had enough sense to learn from his lesson. So then we get to the judgment of others. And this is interesting. He says, verse 35, thy brother came with subtlety, and I've taken away thy blessing. And he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. Now, Jacob has a tricky meaning to his name. Because, yes, it does mean trickster, and sometimes when this word is used in a sentence, it means trickster. It's kind of like our word cool. We got the word cool, and you can mean it 6 different ways. You can mean, man, it sure is cool. You mean, man, I saw something today, it was so cool, you know. Cool can mean several things. Jacob meant several. Jacob could mean deceiver, and it did sometimes. It could mean trickster, it could mean supplanter, but it also meant heel catcher. That's why they named him that.
When he was born, that.
Heel catcher. They named one because he was hairy. Later got changed to red because he was hairy and red. They named the other one heel catcher. But because the word was used in other ways, his brother's seeing the other ways here. He's just trying to twist his name to mean something else here. He says, "Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. This is the reason in his tears that he doesn't change a cotton-picking thing." Because in all that's going on, he still doesn't see his own sin. He never once says, "I deserve this. This is my fault. I caused this upon myself." He never says that. He blames Jacob, particularly for what happened with the food, the birthright, and now for the blessings. He's tricked me twice. It's all his fault. He took away my birthright. No, he didn't. You gave it away. And behold, now you've taken away my blessing. It was never yours. There's a blessing for you too. You know, and something else. If Isaac, and this falls on Isaac's shoulders, if Isaac had done right and followed God, he would have reserved a blessing for both boys. He'd have given the bigger one to Jacob because that's what God wanted. But he would have reserved a blessing for Esau. Because Isaac wanted to do it his way, he pretty much just gave the whole kit and caboodle to one kid. And then he has to stand before the other and say, "Well, I don't have anything left to give you. I gave it all to the one I thought was you because I was disobeying God." See how these errors come back to bite us? Anyway. He says, "He took away my birthright, and behold, now you're taking away my blessing." And he said, "Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? Is there nothing left?" And Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I've made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son?" You see what I'm saying? If Isaac had been following the will of God, he would have made a point to give the blessing to the son it was supposed to go to. But he would have done. Let me make a comparison, and we're going to get there because we're going to study the whole book unless the Lord comes back, and that'd be all right with me. But let me make a comparison. At the end of this book, we're going to see Jacob bless his 12 sons. All 12 of them. Now, why is it he can find something good to say about 12 boys, and Isaac can't find something to say about 2? Because he was trying to give it all to one. That was a mistake on Isaac's part. And he's seeing that now. It's another reason he's probably trembling. He says, "I've made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do now unto thee, my son?" Well, what's left? Esau said unto his father, "Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Again, he's crying, he's upset, he's hurt. Just like I was hurt over a stupid lantern, never once realizing it was my fault. All I had to do is ask, "Hey, did y'all put this in my room? Is there a reason this is in here not once but twice?" Instead of being stubborn and just, I was all upset over that, and it was my fault. Or at least in part. Same thing happened here. So now he's crying. We can finish the chapter if y'all like to, or we can cut it off here and look at it next week. Are y'all tired of listening yet? Anybody ready to go? She says, she shrugs as she yawns. What we're reading we won't get into in depth. We'll just read through the end of the chapter. I'm going to back up next week anyway, right? Verse 39, Isaac his father answered and said unto him, "Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above, and thy sword shall live, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." There's a whole lot there, but we're not going to get into it tonight. I'll come back for that. But anyway, Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, "The days of mourning for my father at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob." Now, this whole verse is silly. First of all, Esau hates Jacob for the same reason Cain hated Abel. Not because of anything he had done, but because he was upset with himself and he didn't know how to deal with it. Cain hated Abel because his sacrifice was accepted while his own was rejected. And it's a very similar situation here. Esau hates Jacob, not because God don't love him too. Y'all remember what God said to Cain when Cain was so upset and his countenance was changed? He says, why are you upset? Why is your countenance changed? Just do it right, and I'll show the same respect to you as I do to him. I don't think God hated Esau. I think God hated what Esau's family turned out to be and what they did, but he didn't hate Esau. But Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing. And Esau was going to kill him. The other half of this verse is silly because they're mourning for a guy who's not about to die. Y'all realize that?
Yeah.
Isaac lives another 40 years after this. He thinks he's dying. He's gone blind. He's probably sick. He's probably got the coronavirus or something. Took him a little while to get over it. And he thought he was on death's door. Hey, y'all laugh, but there's nothing new under the sun. We don't know. That thing might have went through here before. We have no idea. Hey, anything God, nothing's impossible with God. Who knows what he had? But Isaac just knew he was dying. He said at the beginning of this chapter, I'm old and I'm about to die and I need to bless y'all. And he don't. He lives another 40 years after this. So it's just interesting. This whole verse is silly. Esau hates Jacob for all the wrong reasons. And now he's waiting for the days of mourning for a guy who's not even dead. The days of mourning for my father are at hand. It's time to start mourning for this guy who's about to die. You know, Jacob could have stayed home. If Esau's going to wait till daddy's dead to kill him, he didn't have to go to Laban's at all, did he?
Yeah.
Esau will never get the chance to kill him if he's going to wait on daddy to die. Daddy's going to live another 40 years. Y'all ever noticed that before? That's been there this whole time. I didn't put that in there for y'all. It just kills me, the stuff you find in the Bible when you really look. Now, don't get me wrong. God intended Jacob to marry from back home, but he didn't have to go there to do it. He could have done just like Abraham did and procured him a wife. And you know what? He might have wound up with one instead of two if he'd done it that way. Just send the servant, a faithful servant, and get me a wife and bring her back here. He could have stayed home and done all of that. A lot of the stuff we go through, it brings about God's will in the end, but it's our fault we go through it. Jacob gets scared, doesn't show any faith and trust in God, and decides he's going to run off. Now God helps him through it and brings him back rich, but don't sit there and tell me he couldn't have done that right where he stood. God can bless you right where you're at. Now if he wants you to go somewhere that's different, I'm not convinced necessarily God wanted Jacob to leave. I never seen here anywhere an angel appear and say, Jacob, you need to go.
Yeah.
But sometimes the things we do.
Yeah, he sees an angel later.
Right. And God works it all out. But I'm just saying, that I'm convinced this verse 41 is pivotal because we can see here that if Esau's waiting for the days of mourning to be over, this whole thing's going to blow over. And he's eventually going to get over it. He does anyway. Y'all see that, right? Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, said, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. I don't know about Rebekah. Apparently she had spies all over the house. There wasn't nothing went on she didn't know about. Y'all know that? She's got a 40-year-old son who probably don't even live at home. He's older than that. He's 40 when he got married. He's 60. He's at least 60. Probably don't even live there, and she knows what he's thinking. She must have had spies everywhere. Well, remember, when he was giving out blessings, she caught on to that. Now one of them's going to kill the other as soon as the morning's over. She's caught on to that. I'm telling you, I think she had security cameras all over the house. She might have invented the things, we don't know. I'm kidding. Anyway, she sent and called Jacob, her youngest, and said, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee thou Laban, my brother, to Haran. Tarry with him a few days. Yeah. Let's see how that works out. Y'all remember when the servant went to get Rebekah? What did they want him to do? Stick around 10 days. Just wait a while. Just a few days. Wonder what would have happened if he'd have done it. See, he knew better than to stay. He got over, got what he's after, and got out of there. It's what Jacob should have done. If you're going to go, at least go and get back. Anyway, another story for another time. But she says, go to my brother's house. He'll take care of you just for a few days till this thing blows over. It says, tarry with him a few days until thy brother's fury turn away, until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? Rebekah said to Isaac, I am wearied now. This is not an untrue statement, but you can all see this is manipulative of her. I do believe she wanted her son to marry better than her other son. And he's getting up there in years. It's time for him to marry. He's the same age as Esau, so he's got to be close to 60 anyway. These boys marry a lot older then than they do today. But she says, I'm weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. That's the Hittites that her other son married. If Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, such as these which are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life do me? And that's where we're going to stop for tonight. Because I'm going to back up anyway and cover a few of those things. Particularly the blessing that Esau got. I want to cover that a little bit. There's some interesting stuff just in that. But again, he brought it on himself. So I don't feel too sorry for him. You can turn that off if you haven't already. I think the